Well folks, we're back with another bad boy from my collection of old Ozone machines, and this one is the Ozone XT 14000. Now this machine is a fairly good ozone machine. If you're looking to make high ozone output, this thing makes 14,000 milligrams per hour. That's actual ozone output, like my machines. Unlike some of the other machines that are being sold in the $400 to $500 range that claim to have high tens of thousands of milligrams per hour output. This one really does. And this is a machine. Over a year and a half ago I shot a video of this machine showing you exactly what it looked like inside the machine and how it functioned. Now I'm going to show you what this machine looks like having been put on a crew for only 6 months' time. That's right, my men actually broke this machine again in 6 months of real field use. And what you see all accumulated on this shiny stainless steel that was once polished like a mirror is the salt that we use to prevent the mold from growing. And on this end of the machine, you'll see there are 6 generator cells. There's a piece of ceramic tube, a bent thin piece of stainless steel, and in the middle we have a stainless steel rod. Each one of these generator cells makes 1/6 of 14,000 milligrams per hour. Now in the middle there's a huge array of transformers, and then there's another complicated circuit board because this machine has a digital timer. This is the on-off switch, and then the timer switch, and then we've got level settings A, B, C, D that engages 2, 4, or 6 of the generator cells at one time. And at the far end we've got another axial computer fan. This one is actually a little higher CFM output, about 135 CFMs, which is a decent fan for that type of a cross flow fan. But again, all of the ozone is being made inside this ambient case, and that means all of this electronics gets exposed to the gas and oxidizes. The first thing that stopped functioning was the timer, and after that the switches. For a while my guys were making this function by setting a large hammerhead from a sledgehammer on top of it to keep it making the ozone. But I put this thing back in service on a real mold crew so you could see exactly what real abuse looks like and how fast you're able to kill a standard ozone machine. And again, this is just a thin piece of bent stainless steel case. I'm looking forward to dropping this because this hard plastic will definitely break when we do our dropping tests. And of course, this is a non-functional piece of equipment. This equipment retails for $1,899, and it only puts out 14,000 milligrams per hour. If you're looking for a 14,000 milligram per hour machine with a simple fan, my home 14,000 unit at $433 is the best one in the world. This is a completely different type of ozone generator. This is a corona discharge ozone cannon. And you see when I've started to take this apart, on one end we've got the switchboard which used to go to all these timer and level of ozone settings, rheostat, that would go right underneath here. This is one of the things that always goes bad in an ozone machine. Anytime you put a microcircuitry processing board in an ozone machine, because of the high levels of oxidization that are present, it will always go bad, and in a relatively short period of time. That's why all of our ozone generators have been designed with simplicity and power in mind, because we want a long-lasting, durable super ozone machine with the least features to go wrong, so that for real in the field use by a contractor, you're never left without the thing for service. When you look inside this box, we've again got the computer fan at the far end. We have a relatively tough case. So, when we take this machine apart, I showed you on this end how it's basically got the same old computer fan, and it has, again, a complicated piece of circuit board which has a rheostat. That's the adjustment to turn the ozone up or down. Now this rheostat will decrease the maximum ozone output by about 20%. It's the reason I don't put rheostats inside my ozone machines. And of course it does have a timer built in, which is the reason for the circuit board. They attempted to keep this from oxidizing by coating it in silicone, but as you can see, the silicone broke down from oxidization and the machine ceased to function. Now in the middle, what we have are, if you can see through here, there's very little room for airflow down this entire length. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generator cells, and in here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 transformers. We have one transformer for each generator cell. That's nice, but the generator cells themselves are just a standardized, just another variation on a theme. And I'm going to unplug this generator cell here and show you what's in it. Remember, we described in our other videos the simple way ozone is made is by passing high voltage electricity across an electrified piece of stainless steel with a dielectric medium and another piece of metal as a ground underneath. So when we snap this apart, we can see that this tab connected a thin piece of stainless steel, which has got quite a bit of buildup on it, and I suspect that's one of the things that made it fail over time. And then we have a thin piece of borosilicate glass, and underneath that we've got a thin piece of brass, which makes for the ground. So again, electrified stainless steel, dielectric of borosilicate glass, and electrified piece of brass underneath. It's a decent design. This is a relatively high output machine. I think this one puts out 6,000 milligrams per hour, just a little weaker than our home junior unit. Unfortunately though, this machine is priced at over $900. This is the Ozone model, and while this does have a United States patent on it, when you flip it over and look at the back, you see it's made in Taiwan. And again, another piece of decent ozone equipment, but really not one that has the ability to withstand a lot of abuse or a long lifetime. So now folks, we're moving up into a higher grade of ozone generator. This machine retails for over $1,000, and this represents one of the latest crazes in the world of ozone, which they call UV light ozone. And this is called the ProTech 8000 ozone generator. Unfortunately, 8,000 is just a number. It's not how many milligrams per hour this machine will actually produce. And this machine has a box just like the rest of them. This one happens to be a bent piece of fancy stainless steel, custom bent. And they call this the Marine Residential Commercial Odor, Mold, and Mildew Treatment machine. And unfortunately, it really doesn't have the ability to make that kind of ozone. And what's inside this machine is like most UV ozone generators today. You'll see at this very far end of this giant long box, we've got another tiny little computer fan. And this is again a relatively low CFM, about 65 CFM fan. And then we have 6 ballasts and 6 UV light bulbs that make a specific frequency of light that will generate ozone gas. Now, one of the really cruddy things about the design of this machine is these little shields here. And for whatever reason, the manufacturer put these shields to give stability or to protect these wire connections on the ends of the bulbs. Unfortunately, what these things really do is they hog that output of the air from this fan. Now this fan blows this way across the length of the bulbs, and at the end of this tunnel And this is in no way, shape, or form airtight when it's all sealed up and screwed together. When it gets to this end, it's barely putting out any real volume of gas, let alone the fact that UV light will never make high enough levels of ozone to do real shock treatments that's necessary to kill things like mold, viruses, bacteria, and mildew. This will get rid of odors again in a room. It's definitely better than good enough to do Uncle Frank's cigar, but to get to really high shock levels, you've got to use a different method called the corona discharge method. And UV light manufacturers are always touting the fact that UV light does not make nitric oxides. Well, folks, the real trick to not making nitric oxides is to always give your high ozone corona discharge machine access to a fresh supply of oxygen. If you're always converting fresh oxygen, you'll always have an ample supply of ozone gas, and it won't work its way down to the nitrogens in the air, which will create those nitric oxide molecules. So again, this machine for $1,000 is relatively fragile, relatively thin, bent piece of stainless steel makes up the box. We'll slide this back on top, and you can see this thing will never take the kind of abuse that any real commercial ozone generator needs to for real in the field use. It's a nice pretty box, but for $1,000 it'll never create high levels for shock treatments.